I think it's disgusting. I don't understand what the heck's going on with this. 5th player on my board. It's never happened before in 47 years where a player that high has dropped this far into the 4th round. A quarterback that's sitting there in round 4 with other quarterbacks being taken who aren't as good as Shedeur, aren't even close, in my opinion. The NFL has been clueless for 50 years when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks. Clueless. No idea what they're doing in terms of evaluating quarterbacks. That's proof. There's proof of that.
How many
times we know exactly what we're talking about with quarterbacks? They don't.
When Mel Kiper speaks, the football world listens. But this time, he didn't just speak, he erupted. A 47-year streak of draft evaluations, and never once had he seen a quarterback this talented drop this far. Shedeur Sanders, his 5th-ranked player, sitting in the 4th round while teams picked lesser quarterbacks ahead of him. To Kyper, it wasn't just bad scouting, it was a scandal. The NFL's been clueless for 50 years when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks, he said, his voice shaking with frustration.
Well, Mel Kiper is the latest to go at and destroy the Cleveland Browns organization over this whole quarterback situation when it comes to Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. Now, we all know who Mel Kiper is, well respected in the sports of football. Mel Kiper's big board, his draft board, he gives you great breakdown on players. And he said some things about the Cleveland Browns organization that you don't want to miss.
And if you listened closely, you could hear something deeper than anger. It was disappointment. Because Kyper wasn't just talking about numbers or tape, he was talking about wasted potential. And no team embodied that failure better than the Cleveland Browns. The moment Shedeur's name landed in Cleveland, you could almost hear a collective groan. Not from the fans, but from fate itself. The Browns don't develop quarterbacks, they devour them. This wasn't a new storyline, it was a rerun that never ends. Every time Cleveland gets close to hope, they find a way to fumble it. They don't rebuild, they relapse. When Mel went off on ESPN, it wasn't just another hot take. It was a man watching a franchise throw away yet another future. They have no idea what they're doing, he said. And the more you look at the Browns, the harder it is to disagree. Shedeur Sanders was supposed to be the spark, the next great leader to drag this team out of the mud. But the Browns turned his arrival into chaos before he even got a chance to take a snap. Reports started surfacing of confusion inside the locker room. One day, he's QB2.
This is not the first time that Mel Kiper has gone viral for his takes and thoughts about the NFL draft. He's been doing this as long as anybody. He practically invented the NFL draft with his enthusiastic draft coverage, but we have never seen anything close to this with his consistent remarks about Shedeur throughout. It's okay to be wrong. When you're in sports and you give takes, you can be wrong. It's just a matter of when to let it go, and he continued to pour in, and Reese Davis at one point stepped in to try and destroy the narrative that Mel was.
The next, he's nursing a back injury. Then suddenly he's warming up, but never plays. Fans are left wondering, was he actually hurt, or was something else going on? Because to everyone watching, it looked less like an injury, and more like manipulation. And that's when the spotlight shifted. All eyes on Kevin Stefanski, the head coach whose offensive genius seems to vanish every season. Mel Kiper didn't hold back. He said the Browns' leadership has no sense of direction, and watching them manage Shedeur felt like watching someone buy a Ferrari and drive it straight into a lake. But the bigger story wasn't just about one bad call, it was about a franchise allergic to stability. Every offseason, the Browns promise a new vision, a new culture, a new plan.
Heck, let him play in some NFL action. You move them up to 2 on the depth chart. A couple minutes left, game's over. Why not let him go out there and get his feet wet a little bit in the NFL in a setting that doesn't matter as much, just like he did in preseason? Made no sense to me. ESPN Cleveland looked at this and said, well, maybe that's why the Browns didn't put in Shedeur. They didn't want to start a quarterback controversy, right? You put in Shedeur at the end, he goes and scores a touchdown, and all of a sudden everyone's going to scream that he should be the starting quarterback.
But by midseason, it's always the same story. Finger-pointing, quarterback controversy, and excuses disguised as strategy. Cleveland doesn't build, they blame. It's like they're addicted to their own dysfunction. The problem isn't talent, it's leadership. Because when your front office is split between agendas, the players never stand a chance. And that's exactly what's happening to Shedeur Sanders. On paper, the kid's a dream prospect. calm in the pocket, smooth under pressure, unshaken by chaos. But the Browns are turning that calm into frustration. The rumor around the league?
Mel Kiper is the latest to go at and destroy the Cleveland Browns organization over this whole quarterback situation when it comes to Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. Now, we all know who Mel Kiper is, well respected in the sports of football. Mel Kiper's big board, his draft board, he gives you great breakdown on players. And he said some things about the Cleveland.
Stefanski wanted Dylan Gabriel. The GM, Andrew Berry, wanted Shedeur. 2 visions, 1 franchise, 0 unity. It's a tug of war that's spilling onto the field. When leadership fights in silence, players pay the price. And that's exactly what Mel Kiper was calling out. Not just a bad draft decision, but a broken system. Because this isn't the first time we've seen it. Baker Mayfield, gone. Joe Flacco, thriving elsewhere. Every quarterback that escapes Cleveland suddenly looks like they remembered how to play football again. It's not coincidence, it's culture. Cleveland doesn't develop players, it drains them.
Since 1999, I mentioned the quarterbacks, they've had busts galore, right? But they had one they hit on. When you hit on a quarterback, and you know in that building, on that field, you got the right guy who's a leader, the players rally around, and you let him go and you cut him loose, shame on you. So again, that's again speaks to where we are right now. You mentioned 2 first-round picks. They have their own, which is going to be high, and they have Jacksonville's pick as well. They got work to do. And again, figure out Dylan Gabriel. That was Kevin Stefanski's guy. Shedeur Sanders, Andrew Berry brought in because he was there in the 5th round, and we took him, see what happens. I'm not ready just because the league doesn't speak. I don't care what the league says. The league doesn't speak about quarterbacks because they don't know any more than what you and I do.
And Shedeur Sanders could be the next casualty if something doesn't change. But this time, it feels different. The backlash is louder, the analysts angrier, and the fans finally seeing through the facade. Even ESPN's Rhys Davis tried to calm Mel down during the broadcast, but he couldn't. Because how do you defend the indefensible? Mel's rant wasn't about ego, it was about truth. The Browns had one job, protect a generational talent. And instead, they're on the verge of wasting him before his rookie jersey even fades. But that was only the beginning. Because behind the scenes, things were even uglier than anyone realized.
It ruins quarterbacks. Because we've seen everything that he talked about. You look at Baker Mayfield, he's down in Tampa, he's showing out. Cleveland gave up on him. You look at Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco has balled out ever since he's been traded to the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Flacco damn near threw for 500 yards today against the Chicago Bears. That was a great game. It came down to the wire, and Chicago pulled it out. But we've seen what Joe Flacco has done ever since.
Inside Cleveland's locker room, tension is growing. Players can feel it, the confusion, the lack of direction, the whispering behind closed doors. The coaching staff keeps changing philosophies like outfits. One week they want a power offense, the next they want to air it out. And through it all, Shedeur is left watching, wondering when he'll actually get a fair shot. Mel Kiper didn't mince words. He said, when you hit on a quarterback and you know in that building you got the right guy, and you still let him go, shame on you.
Browns organization have it of the way that they're handling quarterback situation when it comes to Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders this year. Now, we've all seen the quarterbacks that came out of Cleveland, and Mel Kiper, he alluded to the situation with all quarterbacks coming out of Cleveland. And basically he's saying that, you know, the Cleveland Browns organization, they destroy quarterbacks.
That line hit like a gut punch. Because Cleveland has done exactly that, again and again. From Couch to Mayfield, from Manziel to Watson, the pattern never ends. The Browns don't learn from mistakes, they repeat them. And that's why analysts across the league are starting to agree. Cleveland doesn't need another rebuild. They need an intervention. The Haslam ownership has turned this franchise into a revolving door of ideas that never work. It's not just bad luck, it's bad management. You can't fix culture with press conferences and hashtags. You fix it by knowing who you are. And right now, Cleveland doesn't. But if Shedeur can survive it, if he can be the one who breaks the cycle, then maybe, just maybe, Cleveland's curse ends with him. Until then, the question remains, how many more quarterbacks must the Browns ruin before they finally learn to protect one? The answer, as Mel said, depends on whether they can do the one thing they've never managed to do, get out of their own way. Until then, every new season in Cleveland will feel the same. New roster, new hope, same heartbreak. But if Shedeur Sanders finds a way to flip that script to turn dysfunction into destiny, then the Browns won't just have a quarterback. They'll have a savior. And maybe for once, Mel Kiper will finally be wrong, in the best way possible.
The coaches are underperforming, the general manager's underperforming. But as long as the owner is the head circus clown.
Yeah, which he is. Yeah.
And he's P.T. Barnum.
Yep.
He's picking all of these people under him.
Yeah.
This is who he is. This is what the organization is.
And
he's not going to get it right until he walks away and hires people to do it.
Right. And it's not impossible to win with a bad owner, but it's much harder.